Welcome to our training for the software for the robotics cameras. You can see here, Mark Roberts Motion Control is the company who makes this. We're not using the Studio Bot, but that is a really cool camera. Starting off, the two things you need to be aware of is over here on the left side, we have the CamBot Remote Pro and the CamBot Control. CamBot Control is what actually controls all of the physical systems. You don't need to worry about this right now. We'll show that in a later video. The one you need to be concerned about is the one that says RA. That is the control software that lets us actually work with the cameras. Most of the time when you come in and sit down, it will already be pulled up for you, but sometimes you'll have to shut the software down and reboot it. So whenever the software comes up, it will look like this, and I will tell you exactly how it needs to look for you to operate it properly. So let's just do a quick tour of the user interface of the software to start out. So starting up at the top of the screen, this little X button, just like on any operating system, is what's going to close the program. And then I can come back over here and start the program. It loads up pretty fast, which is super helpful. And this is a full screen button, which kind of cleans everything up for you and gets you a little more viewing area. I can also hit window to bring it back down and then close the program if I need to. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in full screen for now. The next thing is we have these tabs across the top. Good news for you is you only need to be worried about the Matrix tab. Advanced users will learn some things in config, but this is the only one you need to be on. So whenever the program opens back up, if you've closed it, the first thing you'll do is click on this Matrix tab so that you can see the matrix and all the views that you need to see. Next, down the line, we have these camera selection buttons, and right now you can see all of the cameras available to me. When I click on these cameras, it actually selects the cameras. Clicking on these buttons is the same thing as pressing the head select buttons on the physical controller. So this is just another way to do that. By the way, this is all touchscreen, so anything you see me doing with the mouse, I can also do by touching that screen. So I can select any of my cameras that I want to control here. Moving down, we also have the matrix tabs. So you see matrix and cell. Matrix and cell. These are functions. We're going to get into these in more detail in a moment, but the matrix functions operate things in the matrix. The cell functions operate the actual recalling of shots and things like that. We'll get into it. Next, you have the matrix tabs themselves. So these are the different matrices that you can look at. We've got it set up so that each console has its own matrix because each console is going to be assigned 3 cameras to operate. Console A has cameras 3, 10, and 12. Console B, 2, 4, 11. Console C, 1, 5, and 15. At least that's the way it is today. In the future, we might change it up. You never know. So right now I'm on console A, and I'm physically at console A, so this is the one I want to be looking at. But at any point in time, if somebody needed help on another console, I could select their console and see what they're seeing and operate their cameras for them if I wanted to do that. So in addition to the matrix tabs, over here on the right side, we have library tabs. You'll notice I have the ability to change the width of all of this. I can even pull it all the way open if I want to. This is your preference. But when you're actually operating, I tend to keep this pretty well closed so I can see all of this a whole lot better. But in the library section, we have the libraries for positions, moves, matrices, collections, and actions. The only ones that you guys are going to be dealing with are positions and matrix. We'll get into this a little bit more in detail in a few minutes. But any position that you create in the cells here or any matrix that you create over here will get stored in the library, and you can go and access those at any time. and I can pull a matrix over into the matrix view over here and add that as a tab. Down at the bottom, we have our robotics information. So this is showing us data from the different axes of the different cameras. So right now I have camera 15 selected. Camera 15 only has pan and tilt and focus and zoom, but this shows me what's happening with pan and tilt and focus and zoom. So if I start to zoom in, you will see the zoom number increasing. If I pan, you'll see the pan number decreasing or increasing. The other thing you'll notice is at the bottom of each of these is a gray bar. And that gray bar shows you how far along you are. So once that gray bar fills up, in this case, that means I've zoomed in all the way. If I zoom out, you can see if I stop here, I'm approximately halfway through the zoom range. So this is a great way to quickly glance down and see what is physically happening with your camera. This is also beneficial if you select a camera that has an X or a Z position. In this case, camera 12 has the ability to go left and right on rails. So I can see that I'm fairly close to the left side. So if I want to go set up for a shot, I can just move over to the left a little bit more, and then I can start moving to the right. And the gray bar shows me how far along I am in that move. So make sure you use that. That's the only part of this you need to be concerned with right now. Don't worry about the 30% bars or any of this. This area is designed for you to be able to control your camera without a physical controller. So we can enable this button here and then control it if we need to. So if your controller died and did not work at all, you could do everything you need to do on the software. But hopefully it's not going to come to that. The last thing as an overview to the software is we have the camera groups on the bottom. Whenever you open up the software for the first time, it will default to this first group, which is all cameras. You can grab any one of these cameras and do anything to it, but you want to operate with the cameras that have been assigned to you. So I'm on console A, so I'm going to make sure that my matrix is selected on console A and that my group is selected on console A. And now you'll see that I have access to camera 3, 10, and 12. And this simplifies my life. I don't have to remember which 3 cameras I have access to. They're right here in front of me. So that's a very beneficial thing. That is the general overview for the user interface. Now let's move on to camera selection. Camera selection. I can select the cameras on the physical control surface, and you can see the cameras changing here on the screen, or I can do the same thing by touching or clicking on the cameras right here. So I've now selected camera 3. The positions and everything show up for camera 3 down here. When I change to camera 10, everything changes accordingly. So I'm going to use this as my selection tool for the cameras, making sure that I'm on the proper group so that I'm grabbing the right cameras. One of the things that's important to note as well is if I start a move on a camera, so let's say on camera 12, I start this dolly right move, you will see a red bar showing the progress of that move. So anytime you have cameras that are doing loops or moves of any kind, you'll be able to look up here and notice the red bar moving, showing the progress of that move for that camera. Now let's dive into the matrix, and this is the bulk of where you're going to be living. So once again, we have preset matrices, console A, console B, and console C. The goal is that you don't mess with these. So don't come in here and delete things. Don't come in here and move things around or modify things. We want to leave everything in here the way that it is because we've worked during the week to make sure that you could sit down here and run the whole service with whatever is in here. What you can do is copy this into your own matrix. so that you can rearrange it if you need to, or if there's new shots that need to be added for that specific service or event, you can do that. To get started though, let's just do an explanation of what you're seeing here. First of all, a matrix is composed of cells. So whenever I hover over one of these squares, it lights up, and that's a cell. Most of the time for our purposes, a cell is going to contain a shot or a position. The software calls these positions because you're storing the information of the position of that camera, whether it's X and Z, whether it's pan, tilt, or focus and zoom. That's what is being stored in these cells. Some cells you'll see have more than one position stored in it. You can grab positions from multiple cameras and store it in one cell. So for example, this cell right here has the home position for all 3 of the cameras that I control, which is super helpful. We also have PED down and PED up. So it's just a quick way for you to be able to change positions of multiple cameras at the same time. We also have some cells that have what's called actions in them. You don't really need to know too much about actions right now, but the actions that you will have access to are these stop actions. So each one of these will stop the movements for the particular camera that it's labeled for. In each position, you will notice that there are several pieces of information. You have the camera number, so cam 1 is here. You have the name of the position or shot. This one's called welcome. This one's called wide. This one's WL1, as in worship leader 1. You guys have all of the information for how we label shots in your training material. You also have this time. The time, in this case 2.0 seconds, that's telling you how long it's going to take that camera to get to that position from wherever it is. So if I click on this, it takes 2 seconds and it's there. Once it's there, the cell will be highlighted with a color. This varies from camera to camera or from machine to machine, but whenever you see a highlight around the shot, you'll know that that is the shot that the camera is currently at. One of the things you'll also notice are these up and down arrows. These up and down arrows allow us to change how long this time is. So right now, if I clicked on this, it would take 2.5 seconds to get to the wide shot. But maybe I want it to take more like 20 seconds. So I can hit this up arrow until it says 20, and then when I go to this shot, it's going to take 20 seconds to get there. Whenever you see these arrows with the time grayed out, that means that I can't go any lower than what that time is. I can go higher because this arrow is orange, so I can add time to it, and now that I've added time, I can also take time away. So you might wonder, why would I do this? Well, sometimes I might want to control the cameras in a slower function, so I might want to start a camera. Here I am on dolly right on camera 12. 25 seconds may be too fast for dolly left to go, so I'm going to set this at 45 seconds. Now when I click on this, it'll take 45. If I do a loop, which we'll get into in a minute, it will take 45 seconds going each way. But if I want to get to this shot as quickly as possible, I can go over here to only cut, and it will cut that time down to the fastest possible time. We will get back to that here in a minute over on the cell tab. One other thing to note on the matrix, the way that we're operating currently is we're going to keep all of our shots for worship at the top of the matrix page. You see you've got the scroll bar here. If you scroll down at the bottom, we have the shots that we want to use for the sermon. This is just a good way to keep these divided and keep us from having to have an entirely different matrix for sermon shots versus worship. We have 80 cells available to us, so there's plenty of room to store things in here. Sometimes if we have a scripted song, you will see that we will have scripted matrices. So here's Breath and Clay, and these are all the shots that I'm using for Breath and Clay. They've got the shot numbers on them, and I can read everything that I need to there. I can right-click to get rid of the matrix, but keep this in mind. Do not delete it. Don't delete the matrix. Close the current tab. And then it stays alive over here in the library. When you have a camera selected, whichever camera you have selected, if I were to click an empty cell, it would store all of the position information for that camera into this cell. And when I click on it, this window comes up, and the caption is going to be the name of the shot. So if you are storing a shot, all you have to be worried about is the caption name. Once you give it the caption name, you can click OK. There are filters, but we're not going to make that part of this training right now, so I'm going to cancel this. And that shot would show up here. And by the way, that shot would also show up over in the position library. When I remove a shot from here, so if I were to clear cell, I'm not deleting that shot. I'm clearing this cell, but that shot still lives in the library over here. And whenever you click on a shot, whenever it is finally selected and highlighted, you can see the red bar going here. You will find that shot highlighted over here in the library. So you can see this is ped mid, this is ped mid, this is the shot that I'm doing right here. So if I were to clear this cell, the shot still exists, and I can come over here, grab that shot, and bring it right back where it was before. So you can drag shots out of the library and put it into the matrix. So if I click on this matrix tab, not this tab, but this tab, we get a bunch of functions that show us things that we can do to the matrix. We can close the matrix that we have selected. We can create a new matrix. We can copy a matrix. So let's look at these three. Let's say I'm the console A operator and I need to make my own custom matrix for it because I want to arrange it differently. So I'm going to create a new matrix, and I'm going to call that Bailey test. So now I've created this Bailey test matrix, and it's totally empty. But console A is what I want to copy into it. So I select console A, click copy matrix, and then I select which matrix I want to copy it to. I'm going to copy it to Bailey test. Now, Bailey test is the same thing as console A, but I can go in here and I can start rearranging this or recording new shots or anything that I want to do. If I close this matrix, so I'm selected on Bailey test, I can close it. We're back to our clean consoles A, B, and C. But if I go over here to the matrix library, you'll see that Bailey test is right here, and I can click it, drag it over, and add it back in. So let's move on over to the cell tab. On the cell tab, we have several different options. We've removed a bunch of these that you don't need, so these are the only ones you're going to need to know about. Pre-select. Let's be careful with pre-select, because what pre-select does, you can see this is highlighted in blue. This lets me select a camera and deselect a camera. You can see it gets highlighted in yellow when it's selected. What it's not doing is actually firing that shot. So this is actually a pretty safe mode to live in, but you have to remember that you're in it. So if I go to this shot and select it, now I can go over here and hit start, and it will go to this shot. And then I deselect it. Most of the time, you're going to live in start mode. So in order to get out of pre-select, I'm going to select this again. So you can see how this toggles. When I'm in pre-select, I can't use loop, right? But when I get out of pre-select, then I move into start mode. Start mode means whenever I click on a shot, it's going to go to that shot with whatever timing is showing up here in the cell. So start mode is where we live most of the time. Only cut is what we switch to if we want to quickly do away with any extra times, like this 5-second jumps down to 0 seconds if I go to only cut. So if the director is needing you to get to a shot really, really fast, then you might just hit only cut first, go to that shot, and then go back to start so you get your timings back. That's the difference between start and only cut. Loop is one that we're going to use quite a bit. So let me show you how we use loop. Down here on camera 12, I'm already on the dolly right. So I'm going to make sure that I'm set up on dolly right. It's highlighted in this green color, so I know I'm there. Once I'm there and my shot is highlighted, I want to loop it with dolly left. I'm going to increase the time to 30 seconds, and then I'm not going to click on dolly left yet. I'm going to go over here to loop, click on loop, come back. Now it will loop to whatever shot I select. So I'm going to select dolly left, and it's going to start its loop. And you can see here the red bar is doing its thing. And unless the hardware or software has a glitch in it, it will do this loop back and forth between dolly left and dolly right until I tell it to stop. Now, there's several ways that I can tell it to stop. I can ideally use my stop button here, because this stop button, this virtual stop button will only stop camera 12. I can also select another shot, and that will stop the loop, but it will also take it directly to that shot. Sometimes you may want to do that. You may just want to get it out of the loop because you want to go to this wide establishing shot. I can also hit the button, the silver stop button on my console, but that will stop any of the cameras that are moving on my screen, so that's not necessarily ideal either. So default to just using this stop button up here for whatever camera it is that you want to stop. Replace position is the next button. So if I want to change a shot, like permanently, then once I get my shot set up the way that I want, I'll hit replace position and then click on the position that I want to change. So maybe it's a shot where I just need to zoom out a little bit further, and that's what I want to save. That's how I would do that. Only use replace position when it's definitely a shot that always needs to be changed. We're going to talk about how to temporarily change shots here in a minute. Swap cells. This is an important one to know. So when I go into my test here, I'm going to move things around because maybe I want to lay this out differently. When I go to swap cells, this is a safe mode. Whatever cell I click on, if I click on another cell, they will swap positions. So this allows me to very quickly just kind of move stuff around, and I can pretty fast lay out my shots in a totally different way. If that's what I want. Maybe this makes more sense to me. This is totally your call. Again, as long as you're on your own tab, you can put this stuff wherever you want to. By the way, some may be asking, where did my stop buttons go? For some reason, it doesn't copy the actions over. So we have to go into the action library, and I'm going to grab the stop camera 3, and I'm going to grab the stop camera 10, and I'm going to grab the stop camera 12 and put those all here. And actually, this one should be here. So now I've got my stop actions in here ready to go. That is swap cells. And again, when you're done with that, you want to go back to the start mode so that you can actually recall these shots. Position property. Select that, and when you select a cell, it will pull up this menu that came up whenever you created the position. This is where you can change the name of the caption. You can change what filters it's on if you need to do that. Don't worry about it if you don't know. So that's a beneficial thing to do. You can also right-click on the shot and get to position property at the very bottom. We'll do some advanced programming later on to show you more of what's available when you right-click on a cell, but for our purposes today, we're just going to deal with the buttons. So that's this section. Down here, you also have a section that includes something called Set PTZF. And you'll notice there's a shot here that has PTZF in it. PTZF stands for Pan, Tilt, Zoom, and Focus. And what this allows us to do is temporarily change the pan, tilt, zoom, and focus of a camera shot for whatever reason, without overriding the actual position that's stored in the library. We might want to do this if a worship leader has set up at the wrong spot on the stage, and so worship leader left waist needs to be panned over a little bit. Well, I don't want to overwrite that shot because the worship leader is off, and in the future, it's going to be back to where it was. So for today, I can pan that shot over, hit Set PTZF, and select it. And now, until I clear PTZF, this is what that shot will be. You can do this with any shot that you have. So if you come in and you've got a Praise Team medium wide shot or a Praise Team 2 shot, whatever it is that you have, if the Praise Team's in a slightly different position, or if the Praise Team is taller or shorter, whatever the case may be, you may need to adjust this shot. So use Set PTZF to recall that for the rest of the day, or maybe just the rest of that song. You can use this however you want to. This is a good, safe way to change a shot temporarily, and then when you're done, get rid of it. So I'm going to go ahead and clear it on this one as well. And what's nice is when you have changed it, it shows up nice and strong with PTZF. That's going to pretty much do it for the things that you need to know at this point in your life for the software. Hope this was helpful. When you combine this with what you've learned on the hard panels, this becomes a very powerful tool for you and gives you the ability to really control these cameras in an efficient way. And hopefully you'll enjoy it while you're doing it. Thanks for your time.